Whenever I think about Twin Peaks, the first thing that comes to mind isn't the story or even the murder mystery, it's the feeling the show gives me. There's this strange, low-level tension running under everything, like a quiet hum you only notice after the room goes silent. The show never tries to scare you in the traditional sense. What it does is slowly get under your skin and leave you with a feeling of extreme unease, which to me has always been scarier and creepier than any horror jump scare or monster.
It is happening again.
A big part of that comes from how the town presents itself. At first glance, Twin Peaks looks cozy. Warm lights, friendly faces, fresh coffee, and those slow shots of the mountains and trees.
You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
But that warmth feels a little too perfect. The more time you spend in it, the more you start feeling like the whole town is covering something up. Not just the murder, but a deeper kind of rot that everyone senses but doesn't talk about. The forest plays a huge role in that. Those trees are always there, breathing in the background. They're beautiful, but they feel heavy. Whenever the camera drifts into the woods, the tone shifts. The colors get colder, and you get the sense that the forest is holding onto dark stories nobody wants to hear. I always felt like the woods were a character watching everything from a distance.
I've lived in these old woods most of my life. Seen some strange things, but this is way off the map. I'm having a hard time believing.
The atmosphere also does most of the work, and I'd even call it a character of its own, since the show wouldn't be half as good without its incredible atmosphere. The fog over the forest, the empty hallways, or the way the camera lingers a second too long. David Lynch has a way of making familiar places feel slightly off, almost like you've walked into a dream where everything looks normal but nothing behaves the way it should. I always felt like the town was sitting on something old and restless. The woods especially don't look alive in a comforting way. What really adds to the creepiness is how the show treats silence. Long stretches where the music cuts out and you're left with nothing but the sound of wind or electricity. Twin Peaks lets scenes breathe until you start wondering why the moment is dragging out, and that's when the discomfort kicks in. It's like the show is daring you to sit in the uneasiness. The Black Lodge adds another layer of creepiness. The backward voices, the slow movements, or harsh red curtains make it feel like a place that shouldn't exist but somehow does. It doesn't explain itself or try to make sense. It leaves you wondering what kind of world these characters have stepped into, and the more you try to understand it, the stranger it becomes. That sense of being lost in something you can't understand is a different kind of horror. It's the type that gets into your nerves because of how Lovecraftian it is. What I think makes the horror of Twin Peaks so powerful is that it's not just supernatural, it's also human. Laura's story is terrifying because it's real, abuse, addiction, or pain hidden under a perfect surface. The show forces you to look at that and then layers the supernatural on top of it, as if to say the real monsters and the imagined ones aren't so different.
I did not kill anybody.
Even the normal characters add to the unsettling mood. People talk in this clipped, strange rhythm like they're not fully present. They smile at the wrong moments or stare a bit too long. In my opinion, that's one of the show's strongest points. The horror doesn't come from monsters jumping out of the shadows. It comes from people who feel almost real but not quite, like actors in a dream who forgot their lines halfway through.
Doppelganger!
And then there's the feeling that the town is cursed. Everyone seems weighted down by something they don't talk about. The sadness of the place mixes with the supernatural, and the result is the slow, creeping dread that follows every scene. The show doesn't give answers because the unease is the point. Bob is burnt into my brain. The way he appears, not with music cues or effects, but just suddenly there, grinning in places where he shouldn't be. That's scarier than any monster. It feels wrong in a way you can't explain, like you've seen something you weren't supposed to. Those moments stick with you long after the episode ends. Even now, I can picture him crouched at the foot of the bed, and it still makes my skin crawl. By the time you finish an episode, you're left in this weird space where the normal world around you feels slightly different. Maybe the shadows in your room look deeper, or the silence feels heavier, or you catch yourself looking down a hallway a bit too long. That lingering tension is what makes Twin Peaks so unsettling for me. It doesn't try to scare you, it just shifts your sense of reality until something as simple as a lamp humming in the corner feels like a warning from somewhere you can't see. To me, Twin Peaks has always been one of the scariest shows ever put on television, even though it doesn't play like a typical horror story. It lures you in with coffee, pie, and small town charm, and then it pulls the rug out from under you. That contrast is what makes it so unsettling. You're laughing 1 second, and the next you're staring at something that feels like it crawled straight out of a nightmare. Whenever I think back on it, it feels like a show that couldn't have come from anywhere else but the VHS era. It's strange, unsettling, and unforgettable.
Nothing is what it seems.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th.
In a town like Twin Peaks.